Good afternoon, everyone. It's Bryan Caprice from Keep Trading Simple, and welcome to this week's Nadex Weekly Market Analysis. It is July 13th. We're about halfway through. And July is one of those weird months where I feel like I have to say that we're like halfway through the summer already. I feel like it just started, but we're halfway through July already. It's just absolutely nuts. August is a blink around the corner, and then next thing you know, we hit August, and it's I'll see you in September song playing on every radio station possible. So it is right there. Um, Very interesting start to the morning today. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll cover it in a sec with the CPI numbers. And I made some funny memes this morning. I don't know. I don't use Instagram too often for the company, but I had to meme it this morning. The whole Dr. Evil with the quotes and the transient. The term that the Fed is using to let us all know that the inflation is not real. But after today, I think it's going to be very hard. So we'll dive into that in a second. With that said, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a caveat today. The wife is not here today. She'll be home in a little bit here. She had a little bit of a fender bender yesterday, and due to being an expecting mother, they wanted to kind of admit her just to kind of have her hang out and monitor. But she's all good, no worries. But the little one may run in. So if you hear a little voice all of a sudden, asking, Daddy, fix it. She's 3, you guys know that, and she loves to whine when Daddy's doing stuff. So I'm gonna tell you that right now. If you hear a little voice, there's not a child invading your room. It's just me on this side. But typically, I can get her fixed pretty quickly. So with that said, let's dive right into things. Obviously, there's a picture of her. She's much bigger than that. She's only about 1 there. She's 3 now. So yeah, she's Daddy's princess. She gets whatever she wants, and she knows it. Unfortunately. Um, as far as my background, most of you already know. So I've been trading since about 2000, started in the traditional stocks and options realm. So, a lot of the strategies I trade for Nadex are, I guess in the traditional options world, we would call them, multi-leg trades. I don't typically just do one thing. There's multiple things going on. But I started there. I'm not a 12th generation trader. My dad actually was a programmer for IBM. He was a big ones and zeros guy. That level of programming. I just had always had a passion for the markets, and again, right around the tech bubble is when I got in. I had perfect timing, so I've been one of those lucky ones, and can say I've been through a few different crashes. At this point, I get excited when the market starts crashing because I've learned really how to play the markets. Started with stocks and options, found forex, fell in love with the 24-hour nature of it, loved the idea of the leverage. Got into futures as well. I became a financial advisor, went on kind of the inside. I figured, for me to take my next step in the journey of really kind of grasping and mastering the overall markets, I'd have to be on the inside because you just, there's that secret sauce, that secret data that, they never tell you, right? That we can't get on the outside. Learned very, very quickly that I knew more than most people, in my office anyway. I had one of the funny story. One of the guys, he was I think the second or third highest assets under management as a solar practitioner in the company I work for. And he asked me to analyze a chart for him, and I was completely floored. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "You're one of like the biggest guys in this company." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "But I don't read charts or anything like that." I was like, "What?" I was totally floored. But I will say, I left that industry very quickly. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Uh, it was cool because I got to learn about bonds. It's something that nobody ever talks about. I learned how important the bond market really is and how big it was, and it really put a lot of things kind of in focus for me. I left that industry and realized that my passion was truly in teaching people how to do it themselves and not rely upon other people. So a lot of what I do is I try to keep things as simple as possible. So in my charts today, you guys are not going to see a whole lot of fancy charts. I know how to use a lot of the fancy tools and things like that, but I just don't believe in them. You guys will hear everywhere that everybody talks about, in anything that you're learning, the fundamentals matter the most, like in sports or, and keeping things simple. There's all those acronyms out there, KISS and things like that. And that's truly how I believe trading should be. I'm very big into money management. I'll talk about risk today a lot. Every single position I put on, the first thing I look at is the risk that's associated with it. And that's really what you should be. Too many people are focused on, oh, this, I can make this much money. Yeah, but I always look at the other side first. And really, every major trader out there, they'll even tell you, like, I'm not a great, they'll say, I'm not a great trader, but I'm a great risk manager. And I think that's something that is really important to focus on is risk. And that's why I really love Nadex a lot because the risk is so defined for us. Um, So again, the boys are not here to help today. They're actually much older too, but the little one, she's moving. I hear some feet moving, so she may be in here in a second. We'll see if she's going to join us for today. She actually does really like these programs. If you guys have ever joined us on the early morning programs, and again, I apologize, we did not have an early morning program today. We had some issues with the broadcasting software. We were unable to get in. I don't know if they had DDoS attacks or what, but their web was down, so that we were unable to use them. But we'll be back on tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. on YouTube. Um, Before we cover charts, let's cover our Nadex risk disclaimer real quick. Trading on Nadex involves risk and may not be appropriate for all. Members risk losing the cost of any other transaction, including fees. Now, you should carefully consider whether trading on Nadex is appropriate for you in light of your investment experience and financial resources. Any trading decisions that you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results, and none of the material presented herein is to be construed as a solicitation, recommendation, or offer to buy any or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Now, Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC, and Nadex is a registered trademark of the IG Group. So for today, as you guys know, we have a couple things that we run through. First thing I'm going to cover is the upcoming news events. Now, today, the blockbuster data was obviously CPI. Let's see what we have for the rest of the week. I know there's actually another good one tomorrow, as well as oil inventory, but we'll kind of break it down for the rest of the week. If you guys haven't been here before, you guys know I absolutely love news trading. It is absolutely the best, hands down. No one will ever be able to disagree with me. You'll never change my mind. You guys have seen the memes and the gifs of the guy sitting behind the table on like that college campus, and he's like, changed my mind. That's me. That's me. Anybody that doesn't believe that has absolutely no idea what the markets are really about. What after that, we're going to dive into the indices. We'll kind of see where they're moving for the day. As always, 12:30. A lot of the trades have already happened for the day, but we can look to see what other possibilities we have for the rest of the week and kind of what the forecasts, in my opinion, probably we're going, where we can move to. Then we'll break into forex. Now, big morning for forex. A lot of great trades. Very, very easy trade setups, in my opinion. Hopefully, all of you guys had a green day today, just based off of that CPI number this morning. We'll talk about some other really nice levels out there. And then last but not least, we'll cover commodities, gold, oil, and silver. Some days we factor in natural gas, maybe not today. It depends, on the timing of things. But I will say, natural gas has been really great to trade lately. It's had some major swings. So there's definitely been some movement out there that you guys can capture in the markets. With that said, let's just jump right in. Let me see. Let me go to the right menu. Let's go here. Let's go to Forex Factory and pull it. All right. So in the last 24 hours, we've seen I would say pretty decent data, right? I mean, we're seeing dollar strength across the board, and that absolutely 100% comes in with that CPI data this morning. Besides that, I mean, you have things like the dollar again that are flat. Dollar Swiss is more or less flat, and again, it's pulling back right now a bit. You see the Aussie dollar down just a little bit, and again, there's your dollar strength there. You're seeing some pound strength come back in, so when you're seeing the euro pound, you can see it here, but you're also seeing it when you compare the euro dollar versus the pound dollar. And then pound yen is down a little bit. The pound has been getting beaten up, and when I say beaten up, I mean it's one of those things. I still feel that we need to, or at least me personally, I'm still looking for more buying opportunities and selling opportunities there. But again, when you have speeches in the morning, that kind of kicks in a little bit, right? As far as overall news, kind of the hottest news stories before we break day by day, you know, Bank of Canada talking about tapering. They had great data last week. Again, Delta concerns. Again, Delta's popping up everywhere, the Delta variant of COVID. Besides that, the Swiss is a safe haven currency and tends to appreciate. Yeah, I got it. Everybody knows that, but sure. Here you go. Bullard, again, Bullard is one of the more aggressive ones talking about the central bank is we need to start tapering. So it's really kind of all based off of what we see. So CPI, as you guys know, CPI is a gauge of inflation month over month. Everything we have heard thus far is it is transient, it's transient, we're going to see it go away in July. Well, we're halfway through July. I don't know about you, but, a forecast of 0.5, it's 0.6 last time. I mean, that's still a positive number, right? Transient, and again, every definition I can find of transient means it's a sudden burst, but it's not sustainable and it comes back down again. I'm sorry, but if it was 0.6 and now we're at 0.9, that does not seem like it's going in the right direction. That seems like it's an additive factor to me. So again, I don't know exactly what the Fed is looking at. But both CPI as well as core blew the numbers out of the water. And I'll show it to you guys in a chart. Miraculously, I mean, you guys are never going to believe this, right? Never will you believe this. The market moved so things like the euro dollar could drop to the downside. It's almost like they knew what was going to be announced, right? It's funny how that works out. And again, if you understand the different strategies that exist out there, when you can get into something, a little bit early and take some type of a limited risk entry, i.e., a binary, yeah, yeah, you can take advantage of some really fast trend, really fast bits of movement very, very soon. It's funny how that works out. Another thing to watch out for later tonight. So, although we cannot trade the New Zealand dollar on Nadex, typically what happens in the news that we hear in New Zealand typically rolls over into Australia. So there may be some opportunity late night tonight in that one. And that's it for today. Now, tomorrow morning, we start off very, very early with the pound CPI data. Now, okay, what does that do? What we saw today was CPI was much higher than expected on a monthly basis. On a yearly basis, it's expected to be, higher than what it was. If that comes in any higher, showing that we have kind of an even more kind of, hotter cooking environment in the UK, that should provide some pound strength. Now, we're more or less seeing pound weakness, except versus the euro, right? This going down today gives us a great opportunity tomorrow, because if we continue to kind of grind down, right? They come out with the CPI date tomorrow. There's your springboard, right? When we want to buy things, we want to get in at a lower price, right? Buy low, sell high. So it coming down today is actually feeding into the CPI data for tomorrow. So again, could be some good opportunity. Tomorrow we have PPI. And again, you may say CPI, PPI, Bryan, I don't know what all this stuff is. Okay, well, it's easy. You can click on it and you can see here. It's basically the change in the price of finished goods and services sold by producers. So it's the back end of things, right? It is a gauge of inflation, and it's also expected to be 0.6. So it's not disappearing, right? And my take on PPI, it's one of those things, right? I mean, once we're buying something at a specific price, did they ever like drop the price back on us? Like, think about it. Like, if if we weren't revolting at $4 gas, why would a gas company suddenly say, "Hey, listen, I'm just going to charge you $2 a gallon"? I know you've been paying four, but from the bottom of our hearts, we only want you to pay $2, right? They're never going to say that, right? Once we become accustomed to paying a specific price, they never drop the price back again. They want to, because it means more money in their pocket. So, you know, I'm expecting these numbers to be good, but it could be another, nice mover tomorrow morning. Then we have the CAD, and again, we saw some data for the CAD down here, talking about how their tapering is probably going to be stifled by the Delta variant. Yeah, probably. I don't expect an overnight rate change, but they were the first ones to talk about tapering and really coming out of the back end and what recovery looked like, and when they could potentially start raising interest rates. The CAD was the most aggressive. All right. So I would not be surprised if they, again, they're going to mention the Delta variant, but the reality is, right? The reality is, the Delta variant is everywhere. Okay. It's in the United States, but yet we're seeing, good numbers. We're seeing inflation. We're seeing recovery. We're seeing jobs. It's not stopping, progress. I would expect them to say something, but inside of that rate statement, things like the dollar CAD could be a great play tomorrow for that one. All right. So again, uh, early morning, 10 o'clock. Now, right after that, we have 10:30 crude oil. We were absolutely covered that chart today. That one has been very, very fun to trade. And again, last time we had, a down draw of 6.9. They're saying people are getting out there driving more than expected. So, again, everybody knows that OPEC Plus right now is a complete nightmare. They can't agree on anything. Yeah, been crazy. Expecting this to be another negative number. And again, in the overnight, there may be some interesting plays in crude oil. Again, another news-based trade. Then we have Powell speaking at 12 tomorrow. Okay. If I feel like, and I hate to say this, it's like, it's just one of those things. I feel like there's got to be some type of Vegas odds for Powell saying transient or not transient tomorrow, right? If he says transient, he loses all credibility whatsoever. Um, I just feel like at this point, he has to bring up inflation. He has to talk about when it becomes dangerous, when we can curb it, what means we're going to use, how long they're going to, he's got to do it. Now, why I think this is important. Again, this is a semi-annual monetary policy report in front of who? The House Financial Services Committee. Okay. The reason why I think this has some potential for tomorrow is because, again, think about the people on the House Financial Services Committee, right? They have elections coming up. They need to have people rally behind them. They're going to ask the pointed questions that everybody wants to know. Now, a lot of this Powell has prepared ahead of time, but I'm sure there's going to be some zingers in there because, again, it's a house financial services thing. They got to make sure everybody thinks they're doing their jobs, right? So it could be some fireworks, particularly with the inflation level that we're talking about right now. Tomorrow night, Aussie. This is kind of the trade of the week. Besides the CPI number today, I think that was number one, but this is number two. Tomorrow night, Aussie employment change, 9:30 p.m. at night. The unemployment rate is expected to remain, the same. Everywhere else in the world has been coming down. Now, Australia did lock down 4 of its biggest cities. They had like 38 cases of the Delta variant, and they were like, "That's it, we're locking it all down." 38 cases. So we should start seeing some of the results of that lockdown. It's been enough time now. Wouldn't actually be surprised if this dropped a little bit. Could be a big mover for the Aussie, particularly with, we mentioned inflation today. That could provide gold with some boom, and then again, that could provide for the Aussie. So I think that's going to be a good one. And then as well as you have the Chinese GDP number. You may say, well, we're not really trading it. Well, you could actually, you can trade. There are ways to trade the Chinese currency or the Chinese economy over at Nadex. And this is an interesting. Again, the prior was 18.3. 8% is still positive, but 8 is not 18. A little bit of a difference there, and again, it'll affect other proxy currencies as well, like the Aussie dollar. So a lot of Aussie news tomorrow night. Going into Thursday, there's a lot of talk, right? A lot of speeches. Unemployment claims number, I think 350 is just the baseline they're going to go to each week now. Just seems to be like that. We'll see. Again, I don't think the unemployment claims number, it's marked as an orange because that's what it typically would be. With Powell speaking, he's speaking at 9:30. He's testifying, and again, it's that same banking committee. It's kind of the second day of it. With it being in such close proximity, I don't know if unemployment claims, industrial production, although they would be good on a regular day, I feel like Powell's going to swallow everything up. So it's going to be more of a headline day on Thursday. Then we have CPI for New Zealand, and we have some of the yen stuff. Friday, retail sales. Okay. Retail sales is basically you and I, what we're spending, how much we're spending, how often we're spending. And again, it really is a gauge of kind of the consumer sentiment like we have here. But again, if we are confident, if we have, disposable income, if we feel good about the economy and good about the recovery, we spend more money. And right now, retail sales numbers overall are supposed to be minus 0.4. The core numbers are 0.4. These are the way that these are set up, split like this. This actually has some power because again, if these both come in as positive numbers, that's a big boom for a lot of companies. And right now, all the earnings reports that we're seeing tend to be looking good, right? Earning expectations are being, affirmed. Sometimes they're expanding them. Kind of hard to say that these numbers are going to go down. It is a month-over-month number, and if you look at this time frame, you can say, okay, what has happened in the last month? It's like school is getting out. But remember, a lot more people traveled for the 4th of July holiday than people had originally thought they were going to. If more people were traveling than they had predicted, that probably means that more people were spending. So I feel like, and again, that the core number wouldn't be affected by but the overall retail sales number would. So I feel like this is setting us up for a really good morning on Friday this week. So it's one of those things. If you guys are not trading this, retail sales is one of the big 5 news releases out there. You got to get in there and trade this one. Jump in there at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Look to see what's possible, and then go to town with it. So I just feel like that's a great opportunity on Friday for us to trade something. All right. With that said, let's go ahead across and let's jump into. I had a question about memes or memes. Meme. Like Instagram where they have like the comments. Memes. You never heard that? Yeah, memes, not memes. All right, so let's dive over. Let's start off with the indices. So, hold on. Here you go, Jinjin. Stop hitting the ads. Unfortunately, my daughter, as cute as she is, she falls for the ads on YouTube all the time. Here you go. Here you go. Go back to the bed. Thank you. YouTube strategically places ads on the right-hand side that look like other videos. She's like, oh, I like that person, and then clicks it, and it's an ad. It pops up in another browser. She falls for it every time, and then brings me. She's like, can you help me? Can you help me? In her like little voice. So last week we had talked about, or actually the last time we had talked, and we broke things down. We talked about this 4350 number, right? And about how important this number was. Yesterday we were sitting back in this level. We pulled back down, and we talked about a base and driving higher, and that's basically what it did. It came down at base, and then pushed up. It had a little bit of a hiccup here at 8 o'clock this morning, and again, that was the CPI number. And you may say, well, wait a second, why did it head down? Very simply, when inflation is too high, they raise interest rates. Bad interest rates are bad for the overall stock market. That's why it dropped back down again. But again, once it was absorbed, there's no reason why it can't be pushed higher. And again, a lot of it has to do with the Fed. So it's pushing higher. I would say right now, I do like one of the things I do like about this is I like this area right here. I mean, you see all this level of basing. I mean, sellers were protecting this level. They weren't letting them break above this 4380, and they got pushed back and pushed back again and pushed back again, and then again it based again. All this basing here is important because we can use this to trade later on down the road. Right now, I would say with really lack of any news, or unless Powell says, yeah, we may be accelerating the level of taper that we do tomorrow, which actually wouldn't surprise me. I do think that this 4,400 level is something well within range. Can we hit it today? I don't know. Unfortunately, a lot of the juice was sucked away with this kind of push down and then the parabolic move right back up again. And again, remember, I typically like looking at this in the 30-minute or in the 15-minute view for the indices. But I do like the fact that we have so much basing here because, what once was this top here, all of a sudden will become the bottom in an area where the buyers start stabilizing themselves. So it's nice to know that 43.75 is one of those levels. Is it tradable right now? Not so much, but it's definitely something to keep on the radar. If we start to spike over and we push back down again, that could be definitely our launching point where they look for more buyers to step up. But I think 4,400 is on the books this week. I don't, we're not that far from it now. We're only 19 points. It's well within reach of 1 day's worth of movement. Like I said, could it hit today in preparation for Powell speaking tomorrow? I think there's actually probably a good opportunity for that. After this lunchtime hour, can we get a rise before end of the day? I think it's possible, and here's why. If we continue this kind of same push, right, and we push higher, 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 and then Powell is speaking tomorrow, if Powell mentions tapering at a faster rate or inflation is now starting to become a concern or something that we're watching even more closely now, anything that is hawkish for interest rates should give us an immediate kind of down push tomorrow when he talks. So with the price getting higher, and think about it, you want to buy low, sell high, but when you're doing the opposite direction, when you're looking to short, you want to short it when it's expensive and then buy it back when it's cheaper. So the price rallying up today feeds right into Powell mentioning, again, potentially raising interest rates or watching it more closely tomorrow or Thursday. So I think we have a good opportunity today. So, it's a level that we'd watch out for. And again, do we see a pullback to it and use that for a bounce? Yeah, it's possible. But I think right now, again, if you're in a longer term position or you can find something a little bit lower risk, I think 4,400 is a great target this week for the indices. Now, NQ, you can also see had quite a volatile morning. And yesterday we talked about 1490, 14,950, and 15,000. Look at that. We missed it by just a little bit. We missed it by less than 5, or about 5. Those are the three that I thought we were going to hit, and I like this. And it's the same thing. Here's the drop down. Here's the 9 o'clock window where we rallied right back up again from that, basically this drop to the downside. It just shows you how sensitive the market is to interest rates. Again, I do think we tagged 15,000 today just because we are so close. It's at 14,977. We were within a couple points of it. How great would it be to say we hit 15,000, right? Right? And that's why I think we'll hit it. For no other reason besides it would be cool to say 15,000. News, we'll talk about it. Everybody will be like, it's super close. It's just like oil, that $100 for the first bit. And again, remember these $50 increments. You may wonder how I came up with those, or why I put them on there. Remember, a lot of what happens in the market is based off of psychological factors. The human eye, the human brain likes zeros, likes fives, likes equal amounts. So whole numbers, quarters, and halves, very, very popular in the market. Right. So again, that's why those 50s are on there. And again, once we break 15,000, the next target is going to be the 15,050. Right. But 15,000 is, again, having those 3 zeros there. That is a big psychological target. It's a big number that the media will gravitate towards and talk about. Do you get long now? I think you already had to be long when we had this pullback down here at 14,950. Again, this punch through and then pull in base. That should have been your trigger to get long this one for the next 50 points. And I feel the same way with this. Now, I will say I do feel that this will be have some slight exposure tomorrow as well. Lately, this one has been moving a bit more, right? And I say a bit more than the ES and the YM. Its swings have been a little bit, and its movement has been a little bit more violent. And what do I mean by that? Faster, for lack of it, for lack of a better word. It's been, the volatility has been higher. When there's been good news or bad news, it's kind of whipped back and forth. Its swings have been sharper, right? Sharper angles, sharper speed, your faster velocity. So I think NQ is one that is definitely at risk tomorrow for some big movement, especially on, hinged on one of those headlines. But right now, I think, again, because we've broken these, and again, look at this. You see how it kind of stabilized here, kind of pulled back down, and then, just held and then dropped and then came up and then stabilized at the next one and stabilized right before. I think the next one you pull up on this one is going to be up here at 1550. Okay. That would be, again, end of day rally. Could we see that? Yeah, I think that, I think that could happen, that wouldn't be, surprising. But there is going to be a lot of profit taking. This is a lot of movement, very, very fast in the morning session. There's going to have to be some profit taking to the downside. Maybe it initiates and it actually comes from the base right here. That may be actually where the buyers step in there, right around that, 14,950 level, which would kind of coincide with what we're seeing right now. Another 30 minutes down before people start coming back. 30 minutes to an hour. Yeah. We're at what, 73? Yeah. That could be that could be the point, is when they come back. If we hit this area around 2 o'clock and then look from 2 to 4 to rally higher to that 1550. Okay. I do think it's important to make sure that we get up and stabilize at least at the 1500. I'm sorry, the 15,000. I would like to be up to 1550 before. If we could get up to 1550 though tomorrow before Powell speaks or starts getting, I'll say grilled, because that's probably a better thing to, a more accurate term. I do think that this one stands more downside potential tomorrow for that testimony. Now, you may look at this one, the YM, right, the Dow, and say, ES went up. NQ, obviously, it had that big spike and is rallying. What the heck is the Dow doing? The answer is not much. Okay. Here's where I'm talking about those stabilization levels. And again, you can see it here, came right around that 34,800 level. It's a psychological number, right? It's nothing major. 35,000 is the major one for the Dow. But as you can see, it came up in base, then it hit it, and then it hit it again, and it hit it again. And number 4 broke through, but then immediately pulled back up again and kind of formed. So right now, the Dow is really not moving whatsoever. It is down 0.1%, right? So it's barely moved at all. This is one of those ones, by looking at this, it appears that this is going to be the weaker of the 3. Okay. Now, PPI number will affect it, right? CPI, not so much, but PPI is the producers, the manufacturers, and this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So it will affect it. This is, retail sales is also kind of it gets affected a little bit more to this one. So I like this one. I like the fact that this is weaker. I would really like this to pull up just a bit more. And again, I don't want to give you a number on this one, but I mean, somewhere, if we can hold this upper range before Powell speaks, I feel like any type of mention of tapering or, what makes this one difficult is because if we talk about how dangerous the Delta variant is and things like potentially, like I said, we're not shutting the economy down again, but, talking about lockdowns and the future risk of it and all those things, YM is very sensitive to that. Why? Because it's manufacturing, it's industry, it's transportation. It's a lot of like the backbone, right? Where you have NQ, which is the faster tech companies. The S&P is is big business, right? Where YM is, again, it's more of that, the backbone type companies. I feel like there's more of a risk. We talked about levels before. We have a level here, the 34,818 to 47,788. The stabilization level, obviously, prices really liked it, really enjoyed it. But again, I think this one, if it's unable today to have an end of day rally, if we're unable to get to 35,000, I think tomorrow is one of those things that, again, you got to be looking, for short entries, especially if we can get short before Powell speaks tomorrow. Powell can say, hey, listen, this is all going to go away. This is not real. But how long can you say that before people are going to stop believing everything that you say, right? July is the month that he said it was going to turn, and it's only accelerating at an even faster pace. He's got to change his tune at some point, and when he does, I think the YM is going to feel the brunt of it. So again, that's my opinion on this one. Profit targets to the downside. Again, I think this is an interesting level right here, the 34,000, 34,580 level, and again, the 80 seem to be a big one here. We've had some basing there, and again, that's where this last little pop occurred. So if you guys are getting short and you're looking for some type of a down run tomorrow, 34,558 or 34,560-ish level. Again, we could talk about this here. Same thing, the 536 to 566. We've had buyers step in as well as we have a level here. So there's a couple downside targets in the YM. Again, I think all of them would be pretty decent to take. So let's switch gears and let's go over now and get into the currencies. Now, obviously, you can see a lot of movement, right? I mean, has anything really changed? I mean, here's the same area of interest that we talked about, all the testing. 3 times. Number 4 is where it hit deep, drove through, came back, and what did it do? It immediately based again. Now, it didn't give us the long entry, unfortunately. And in the grand scheme of things, when we talked last time, we talked about 75.24 and we talked about 74.11. Those two levels are still valid buy and sell levels for us. And all this did was a parabolic retracement move. Now, it did kind of turn into strange area. We would have liked the turn here. There would have been ways to actually get into this trade. But again, many of you watch the webinar now about parabolic retracements. Here's a complete setup. And right now, I think in going in line with what we see tomorrow with PPI and POW, 75.24, 74.11. They're both great areas up top. But besides that, nothing has really changed. It's been the same now for since the 9th, right? For about 4 or 5 days now, we've been kind of stuck in that same region. Both of those are higher quality levels as well, and they are kind of the extremes. If you wanted to run kind of a small, if we wanted to run kind of the small retracement level, you could put something in there along these lines. And basically with that, again, this is our curve. We're sitting in kind of the blue area right now on the larger time frame, but on the shorter time frame, if you wanted to use these two extremes, you can kind of get an idea of, again, we popped in back into the green and immediately sucked back in again. Every time, again, here we were breaching the green, we pulled back. We pushed up into the red, pulled back. Pushed up into the red, pulled back. So it's forming a well-defined channel, but yeah, I'm kind of hoping we get some good movement. I'd like to get long or short from either of those two regions. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't have a crystal ball. Kind of where I'm looking right now is I like it more for a roll to the downside because I really feel like the market's going to prepare for Powell to say something tomorrow. But there's some pretty decent Australian news coming up in the next couple of days that we can also take advantage of. Now, also again, it looks almost the same. This one we had a level. This was a knockout from last week. We ended up going up and grabbing the sellers up in this range. You guys can see it in here. We touched it. Let's adjust that a bit more to here. The one reason I don't like these is because of the wicks coming through the top. Let's keep that up there for a longer time frame. We could use this for the Australian news as well. And then again, with this is still continued across to the downside. So this actually took a buy level here. Actually, it was the buy level there. Actually, we'll do it off the top one, the aggressive one. That's fine. We could use that. All right. So we have some confirmation. All right. So here's where our confirmations exist. We have Australian news. Let's go ahead and do it this way. We'll do none. Aussie apply. Go down for the week. Tomorrow night. Okay. Tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. This is more or less the specific, the straight Aussie news. So I would keep these on there. Would I take another long off of this one? I mean, I would say with PPI tomorrow, this is probably a decent level to take. European Open, probably not so much. Tomorrow night, the Australian data, also a decent level. It needs to drop back down about 35 more pips. So it does have, more than, it's got more than enough time to get back down to that level before news. Now, obviously, we like the extremes the most. If it's able to rally up, it is a rally of approximately 35. 82.81 is a much better short than 82.09 is a long. 81.20 is a good level. That's one we've been waiting for it to hit. We just haven't gotten the opportunity yet. So I would say our extreme ranges would be the 82.81 to 81.19. Is there a decent level in the middle? Yeah, it's not bad. And it's hit the level twice. This will be hit number 3 coming through. And again, here's the original level. If we get a break through the bottom side, there could also be a potential short on that one. Right now where it is, though, it's got to get through one more time, and it's still pretty decent. It halted this kind of spike down, and then again, parabolic retracement all the way back up to where it was. But I would say right now, the rest of the day, I'd assume this one is also going down. Again, European session open would probably be okay, but if we start the base here, immediately look for short, right? If we have basing in this level and we start peaking at the bottom of 82, immediately get short. Okay, that one going down to 81.19. Um, Again, time of day matters, news matters, a lot of things that matter in this one, but really like this one going south. When we break, I don't know when it's going to do it. It could do it tomorrow. It could do it Thursday. But if it breaks, I like the way that the formation here occurs. And again, run that down. Euro pound. So as you can see, we had a yellow area of interest. And again, this is why we mark these. As you can see, you can say, well, why'd you mark it? It's not a trade. Well, it had hit it, it had hit it before. I wasn't necessarily in love with it. To take it for long, and you can see it hit and it bounced and kind of came in and popped back up again and pushed again and kind of rode on the top and kind of hit it again and kind of hit it again. You're not seeing major moves, and then all of a sudden, finally it crashed. It just didn't have enough oomph, so it was more for the down, more for a downside than anything else. Right now, 84.91 seems to be the ticket for a long. We're in the green zone on the larger time frame, so we are waiting for that to get up there. Besides that, there's really not much else on there. This is kind of a big racetrack, so it's got room to run to the downside. We got about 30 more pips. It's got plenty of time. The ideal scenario for me in this one is if we can get down to that 85 or 84.90-ish area before the European Open tomorrow, I'd like that trade. You may say, well, why would you like that? Well, this is why, right? What did we mention earlier? We mentioned that tomorrow morning, right, we have the CPI data. What did we see today with CPI? Massive dollar strength. I don't need massive pound strength, but if we do have the same type of strength and we're down in a buying level, that kind of sets us up for some type of a trade entry potentially right here. So again, if you are one of those kind of overnight based traders, right there is the pound CPI data. And that's exactly today what we saw gave us a big push. I like it. I think it's a pretty decent area. It's not a very large risk zone either. And again, everything has to be defined off of risk. We need to move that far. And right now, we don't know what the basing is going to look like. But right now, that's the setup. So you may look at this and say, oh, if it comes all the way down, wow, it barely needs to move. And you're right, right? It's about 6-7 pips worth of risk. It's not huge. It's small. Again, take a small Nadex position. You could use call spreads or binaries in this one, really when it hits. And again, this is the euro pound. It's not even the the euro dollar or the pound dollar like most people are used to. So gives us a little bit of a different take on that one. All right. Now, euro yen. Euro yen looks very similar. Again, there was an area here, 31.02. We had talked about it before. It wasn't a new area. It was tested last week. Got front run. That's exactly what we hit in the overnight here. And then again, kind of a little bit of a push back up again until the UK Open. And it's just continuing to ride down. This one has moved a total of about 65 since it hit that level. It's well beyond. I mean, I think at this point it's up to 1 to 6.5. It's a level we're watching for. Too late now. We can't really necessarily get into it. My problem with this one finding a long, though, is there's nothing in here that shows that there's really kind of explosive movement. This area below here is okay. I mean, we have the wicks here. They're mirror wicks, so I don't love it. But then it's like there's higher and then higher and then higher. Those are decent, but none of them is really like an explosive bit of movement, like this pushing down or this pushing down or this type of a turnaround with a one top base. None of them is great. So, again, this is a level up top. We've hit it twice now, or really kind of 3 times now. So I'd be cautious with it the next time we do get up there. But it does push us right back into that same pink area. So you are thinking bearish when we get there. But right now, on a conservative basis, I think 31.02 and 129.30 on the downside. It's really the best we have in those two because, again, this is so choppy in here. Again, there's better opportunity out there. If we can take advantage of that opportunity, just do it. Okay. Euro dollar, you can say, oh, look at this. Look at this. Yeah, this was easy. If you guys want me to show you how you should, it's like when I said it's almost like they knew. So if you couldn't figure it out, here's where the news came in. Okay. So when you're looking at this, it doesn't matter. I'm on a 5-minute chart now. If this was an hourly, I mean, if I covered the time, you guys couldn't tell me if this is a 1 minute. Probably not a 1 minute because the candles are different typically on ones. But whether this is a 5 and 15, a 30, an hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, daily, or weekly, you wouldn't have been able to tell me the difference. So the same strategy that I trade is true for this one. It's magically we hit 8 o'clock. The US trader came in and it did nothing but send it straight up. And it's like, it's going straight up in the air. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Here's that level of basing that we're talking about, right? Whoops. There's your level of basing. There's your testing of it. There's your testing of it again. Price drove into it like it knew, right? Because remember, if you want to sell, you don't want to sell down here. You want to sell when it's high. It drove price right into a little tiny level right before, and it started to hold right before news. It held for 10 minutes. The price didn't move. Telltale sign that a short's coming, and boom, sucker collapsed to the downside. Now I bring this up, and again, guys, the reason I do this, actually, let me mark it off. Let me mark it correctly because I don't want anybody to be like, "Hey, why did you know, why is it there?" Um, okay, there's our 8 there, and that will go across to right there. Okay, move this around. Let's slide this up again. The reason why I'm showing you this is because, again, a chart is a chart is a chart is a chart. The time zones don't matter. When you have strategies that work, if they don't work on all time frames, they're not good strategies. The movement in this one went from here, which again at its peak to its trough is 58.7 pips. Now you may say, I'm not a currency trader. I have no idea what you're talking about. Pip is basically the smallest price increment of movement. You may ask, why is this important? Well, if you look into these shorter duration binaries, which again is my preferred vehicle, right? During news, especially in something like CPI, right? The spread differential is very small. You may say, what do I mean by spread differential? Depending on the contract, depending on the pair that you're trading, the shorter duration binaries have smaller spread widths, right? Easy way to figure this out is on average, right? The euro is about 4 pips. This moves 60. So for those of you at home that are not taking advantage of these strategies, and again, not looking at news, figure out how many times does 4 divide into, let's just round it up to make it easy. How many times does it go into 60? It moved a lot of binaries. There was actually no binaries left. It ran all the way through the bottom. And this is why it's so great to have limited risk, because you could have been wrong and it doesn't blow your account up. But if you were right, this was a heck of a mover and it jumped over 10 strike prices in that time. And the reason why I marked off the box is because this is the 8 to 10. This is the 2-hour binary window. So you can see how much movement. Now you may say, well, how did I know it was going to move that much? Well, again, you have to track news. You have to watch news, but CPI is one of the big ones. It's the hot button right now. It's super hot. So what do we do with this right now? How can we trade it? I mean, at this point, again, I think the market is preparing. It's continuing to push lower. We see no additional news at this point. I think the market is preparing and positioning itself in preparation for Powell to talk about the tapering. And again, what could come from that? If we continue to push too low, when he mentions potentially raising interest rates, you could actually see this thing pop because everybody will be trying to get short this, in which case the big money will send it in the opposite direction. So there are some decent levels. I mean, again, we've had buyers come in here around the 117.80 range. 118 is the big psychological one for this one. It's like, oh my God, we're below 118 again. Everybody has to talk about it, right? And when we pop it, oh, we're back up above, it's just like gold at 1800, right? So I would say right now, I mean, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of clean levels in here. 117.39 was good. We've had buyers that have stepped in. I think the way to play this one tomorrow for PPI is really going to be look to see where we are on our 30-minute basis. See, again, maybe even drop it down to those lower time frames. Maybe drop it down to a 15. See if we have another similar basing pattern like that. That's a telltale sign that, hey, there's some buyers or sellers sitting there. And do the same thing. I mean, again, I'm not giving you trade recommendations. Everything that we're talking about today is for education purposes. But look at those short duration contracts. Look how small the spread, the strike width is going to be tomorrow, and look to see what the cost of entry is. And again, Dan has done presentations on it. I've done presentations on it. There's ways to play, breakout trades. There's ways to play basically no movement. There's ways to take single legs up or down, or single positions up or down. So there's so many ways to play this. And again, tomorrow we know we have PPI. It's going to be, PPI is considered, another one of the big, is it as good as a retail sales or a CPI? Not as good, but again, it is another big mover. And we already know the numbers coming in. So the only thing that would hurt this one would be Powell. But again, Powell has the same potential to make some crazy statements and start some movement. So this is our opportunity tomorrow under, I say rational, right? Because this news rational? No, not really. But it's a rational type base trade. So there's your euro dollar, pound dollar. So I'm sorry, pound yen. So here's that area of interest. Again, it based in here, was a top. It kind of pulled back in. It based again, was a top, top again, and then we based in. It still stuck around that same range right now. And again, I'll move this one across. You can see that 135.46. It was a level we talked about last week. We love the testing. We love the base, and we love the way that it exited. That would have been your trade in early morning hours. It actually left. I mean, here's the UK open. It was already moving and it just continued to follow down. US market came online, and all we have is profit taking from the same levels, right? Here's those profit taking levels right here. And that's exactly what they bounced off of. So right now on a near-term basis, I would say you could use 53.46. You could use this bottom level here, which is sitting at approximately, we mentioned it before, 152.41. Either of those levels would be decent from the UK Open. Remember tomorrow, again, with, we know tomorrow morning we have um, Bailey speaking, right? And Bailey is, yeah, he's holding a press conference about the financial stability report in London. So again, yeah, could be making some very choice comments. But it comes into, actually, I'm sorry, here, the CPI number. His comments today is what put us in the direction we're at right now. The CPI number, again, could be bringing that strength in. So I really love this to come down, find buyers. And again, it can find them at 152. It could also find them down at this level right here, 151. I think either of these two could provide great potential opportunities to go long. Okay. Pound dollar. So pound dollar. We had this trade on last week, and it did pull down. It did kick up, and it was about a 1.5 to 1. You can see it was a little bit over halfway, right, to our 3. So it was about a 1.5 to 1. It ended up rolling and kind of coming back on us. It happens. Again, this is one of those trades that you wish it would have went the entire full benefit. Unfortunately, it didn't. If you would continue it across, though, right, you can see the kind of the same thing happened. What did it do? It pulled down at base. It dropped right like how we like it, pulled back, and then gave us an entry in the overnight, and then again shot down as retraced. So I would say it's kind of the same thing. It was the same type of setup. Again, if you drop it down to the 5 minutes, the same exact trade, right? It had pulled back up again, was rallying right back in. And again, this was the red and green here was from that prior move. But if I move this back just to remove it off the process, again, there's your push back up again. There's your stabilization. And you can see right there before news, right? See, the pop is right there. There's your news release, straight to the downside, right? And here, I'll put this on so you guys can see it. When we talk about risk level, again, remember, it has to move, we want it to move at least 1 to 3. That entire move in there provided a 1 to almost 7 risk to reward ratio trade. Okay. Now, same thing. I give the homework out every time. When we mention this, go look at the short duration contracts, go over to the pound dollar and see what the strike width difference is on the 2-hour basis. This is the amount of movement that you had. If we take our 8 o'clock window, which is here, there's the peak. There is our 10 o'clock window. So there. And again, the amount of movement on that one, whoops, 57 pips. So again, do you think it may have blown through the bottom of some 2-hour binaries? Sure, sure. And remember, right? Do you have to hold them till expiration? Because think about it. If you would have bought a contract and it went all the way down, you say, yep, I'm good. And then it pulled back up again. Could it have taken you out of the trade and made it not profitable? Absolutely. So again, this is why having profit targets is extremely important, right? You don't have to leave it up to fate. And again, parabolic retracement move has now come all the way back up again. If you knew the parabolic retracement strategy, again, this was a great trade this morning. It's over now. I would say that I would expect this one to continue to push lower for 2 reasons. One, I think the U.S. market will prepare for Powell to talk about tapering. And 2, it makes complete sense as if they drive the market down now, the CPI report for the pound can drive this straight back up again tomorrow. And again, we can kind of have that seesaw back and forth of strength versus strength versus strength. All right, so I think a lot of this makes sense. Again, U.S. market driving it down when there's no more U.K. traders left, and then all of a sudden the U.K. market comes in, drives it straight back up again, and then from the U.K. Open, we prepare for it to kind of pull back down again, and then Powell talks, and then we push back up. So, I think this is potentially what we could have, kind of almost like a W effect from, and actually, I guess that's not true. I guess it would be more like this, and then kind of a push back down again, and then kind of a push. Actually, it would be, let's see, it would be here. Let's see, drive down, pull back. I guess it would be probably down again, and then maybe one more, like straight down. If Powell actually gives us what we want, could be something along those lines. I'll leave that there. We'll see. Mine may, and again, I guess actually it's over here. I forgot I was on a 15 minutes. So yeah, so it would be. I'm gonna leave the pattern, right? But I'm on a 15-minute chart now. This would actually be a 30. It would be more based off of this. It would be more over here. It would be something along these lines. probably more like that. Actually, it'd be 2 o'clock, so I'd need it here. I'm gonna leave it, and this will be funny when it comes in. Right there, something along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised if we have something like that in the pound dollar. All right. And again, right now, I'd like it to the downside. It's not a bad area. Dollar CAD. So dollar CAD came up. We talked about if we could get a break of 125.29, we were looking for it long. Again, we never got the entry, right? It peeked its head through, but we never got the base, and we never got the clearance from that level. And now all of a sudden, we're back in that same parabolic retracement move. So this one, I think, comes back down, gets back down to the origin of the move. Typically, I would say profits on shorts would be here at 124.78. I would say the real kind of spiking level, though, is a little bit lower. It's not an area that I'm like, I'm married to, or that I love. But again, we've had a lot of basing, a base, and then boom, it took off. So again, make sure that if you are short, 124.69 is decent. For tomorrow, again, this is one we got to be a little bit closer. You can see we don't need this area of interest now. It's kind of chopped through it. We know that it's there, but it has provided us a level that's closer in proximity, which is a decent piece. And again, here's that move straight up in the air. 8:30 came out, and all it did was run it right back down again. So again, another news-based trade on that one to the downside. I'd say short. And then again, for tomorrow, we got a level here, but we really got to clear this. And again, we should be able to clear it the next time through. I think keep an eye out for this 124.21. I guess Powell can really say, hey, listen, this is exactly what we planned. We expected the 0.9. In fact, here's my notes. I expected that. It'll all be gone by August. He could really mess with the dollar strength. And it could crap, could collapse right through. But I think if we're sitting somewhere in this lower area at 125, where 124.50, see 124.50 is in this level. I think that's a decent level to be looking for long tomorrow if we can get there. Quite a big drop, but I think we can make it in that time. Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss's blip. Bloop, bloop, right back down again. Back in the same range. And again, here's that area of interest that we had talked about before. There was your original base. We hit it. We based on it again. We popped up, and now again we're sitting on that same base again. So, if you're short 91.25 is a decent level for me. There's a racetrack here, so it wasn't really an area that I really wanted to mess with too much. And if you wonder why it turned there, I can drop it down to a 15 or a 5. It doesn't matter. I'll throw in the 15. Yeah, see that right there? So are you surprised that it turned there? No. Nope. Let me see, how far is that away? Can we get back up to there? It's about 32 pips. It's possible we could get back up there before tomorrow. And I would say if we get back up there, it's probably a similar situation. Again, dollar Swiss is kind of a strange pair, but you can see all the strength that the dollar got. I lost it right back again. So it could be on the radar. Unfortunately, we're 24 hours away, or 22 hours away. So it's hard to use a 15-minute chart and talk about what's going to happen in 22 hours. But I would say extreme-wise, again, we're always watching the extremes. 92.70 is decent. Again, this was the last major kind of piece pushing off here. So I would say watch this level at 92.44 for news, and then 91.25 and 90.84 are all levels. But we're kind of going right through this middle, so there's not a whole lot of fun and joy and excitement there. Dollar yen. So you can see dollar yen just missed entry up top. And again, depending on how aggressive you were is what would have given you this one. Decent pop, and it kind of drove itself down. You can see it drove it down, and I'll drop it down to 15 so you can see it a little bit easier, right? You can see that it did the same thing. The market rallied back down to where buyers have been coming in. And again, there was your news release today. It pushed down. So again, could you have taken this one? Sure. But the reality of it is, it's moved 3 pips in 24 hours. Has there been better opportunity? Will we continue to see other opportunity? Yeah, I think so. I think there's more out there. So for me right now, I'm just really not in love with that. I think 110.90 is another level that I'm looking for. It's a level we talked about before. It's a decent rollover. Here was that channel from last week, and a lot of people are like, oh, channel traders, and we talked about this, how it's like, oh, well, here's the channel, right? Really defined. Oh my God, we got to sell, and it goes down like yes, and then all of a sudden it didn't really break it. It just kind of continued to go sideways, and then people got stopped out, and then it went lower, and they're like, yeah, I got to get back in again, and then they got stopped out again, and now it's just It's just really going sideways. So I wouldn't say that this one has any true trend. Not necessarily the best thing to trade. All right, let's dive over to oil. So here's oil, right? Obviously, OPEC is really kind of jacking oil all over the place, right? Yesterday, not a whole lot going on. Had a little bit of a level here, and again, we hit this level a few times. 4 or 5 is where we ended up crashing through. Until we get back up to 76, we don't really have a lot of strong or a lot of strong sellers. I would say now that we've cleared this area, there is another small area sitting right above it that we can see on a 15-minute. It's not super clear, and it's a little bit ahead. So this would be for more of those aggressive traders out there, and it's sitting there right at 75, 75. On a 30-minute chart, you can kind of see the hiccup, and again, this is what it did last time. It based and then launched itself to the downside. I would say I think this can go higher today. 76.19 was an area on a higher time frame that we're looking for selling already. If we can continue from the UK session higher, I would say we're probably more set up for a retrace tomorrow. I think it really is going to depend on this little big situation. Little big meaning we tend to have, when we have little European session kind of hours, we tend to have, we tend to have bigger US inventory days, right? We have the little big, the little big, the little big. This was the big little. Again, when we have big, when I say big, it just larger than normal, right? Obviously, this is the bigger of the two. You tend to have more mirror days, right? And when we have big, we tend to have a bit of retracement. So, and you can see last time we hit that level is where we got that big bit of movement. So I'm kind of looking for a scenario like this. The one caveat is, again, the OPEC plus situation can really throw a monkey wrench in this one. The way that I would say play news tomorrow, and because it's a 10:30 release, we will cover this again tomorrow. Tomorrow's oil, again, API number comes out today. There will be movement of the European session. The EIA number comes out tomorrow at 10:30. We'll see what happened in the overnight and see if we can play reversal of reversal of trend. I'm kind of looking for it and kind of rooting and cheering. Got my pom poms out. I want it to be higher. I would love to be up in the 76 level to be able to take it short tomorrow. But again, if we pull back down, it's going to make it a little bit more challenging. But we're going to cover this one more in depth. Right now, I would say, if you really wanted to get into something today, and here, I'll look at it real quick. Let me pull Nadex up real fast. Let's see. I'm going to see if we have a knockout in there. Unfortunately, as much as I love knockouts, I don't love oil knockouts because I believe that the strikes are just way too far apart on the ceilings. Yeah, they're at the 25, so they're at 76.25, which is, let's see, 76.25 is it's in a zone, but it's not very deep into the zone. So we got one sitting there. That's one we may be able to use tomorrow. If we're able to stabilize ourselves, I would like it if it was a little bit deeper in here. The next one's 77.25, which is all the way up there, which is a bit too far for me to be able to use that level. I think there's some potential for some low risk entry here, but it may just be a little bit too tight. So we may have to see what the contracts look like at 6 o'clock today before we take it. But again, we'll cover that tomorrow morning. Jumping across the gold, obviously you may say, holy crap, what happened with gold? But I mean, obviously inflation, right? It got drove straight down, then straight back up again. Again, it's an inflationary call. Powell will absolutely have an effect on this one tomorrow. PPI will have a little bit of effect, but like I said, if Powell starts mentioning that inflation is higher than expected, I would expect gold to kind of really move. 1814 was a level that we mentioned yesterday in gold. If we were able to get up to it, we mentioned there was a knockout floor at 1791. As you can see, it came just lower on that one. It came to 1790, 25. Obviously, the prices here are slightly different than Nadex. Actually, let me see. Did it survive? There is a 1791 in there, but I'm wondering if one of those got stopped out on the top. I can't see the numbers on them. So, yeah, it was a level we were talking about it as a potential buy area. If you took it, again, you were able to run it back up again back to the 1814. I would say the rest of today, the way that it's looking, it looks right now like sellers have really stepped in here and kind of put a cap on this one. It looks like it wants to continue to push lower. Remember, the gold market, doesn't, gold basically closes at 130. There's not a whole lot of time left on these contracts. Could you play a weekly? You could. Let me see if there's anything in there. There's some that are. I don't know. It's a little bit early in the week. Some of these have a little bit too much premium for me, but there are some opportunities there. Let me see call spread wise if there's anything. Um, no, because these are all going to close at 1:30. So yeah, we don't really have a whole lot. I would say wait for the contracts at 5 6 o'clock p.m. If we're able to hold this level, if we can hold in this range when the new kind of call spreads even pop out, this could be a decent call spread. Maybe running it back down, but be very very cautious. If you were in this trade tomorrow morning and you are short and you were profitable, don't hold if you're already in and profitable, don't hold this one through PPI because you will have movement tomorrow. So just show some caution with it. And then last but not least, silver. Silver is just ugly. Here's that area of interest again that we talked about, and again pops through. What did it do? Came back in, popped in. It's a top, it's a bottom, it's a top. It based again, rallied back up and based again. I mean, this is like the epitome of just moving sideways. It's down 0.45% today. We talked about this one pushing, and it did. I missed it by a little bit. I wanted to come a bit lower, and unfortunately, it turned on us here. So I would say that this level 26.36 is still an area where if we get to it, we look short. 25.50 on the downside is still a good level. Again, if Powell is aggressive, talks about tapering or more inflation or anything that is hawkish tomorrow, silver is the NQ of the commodities realm. So I would say that this one probably has more of a potential to burst higher. If we come down from now till the European session, again, I just feel that we should be looking to get long silver. Remember, silver is kind of the Reddit baby. Um, the Reddit baby for gold. That it's like, hey, don't play gold, just play silver. We'll take it to $100. It's at 26. It's not anywhere close to 100. I don't remember when I think it was by the end of this year. I think we have 6 months according to Reddit before it has to be up to 100. I don't see it getting there personally, but right now, I would say if this continues to drive down, which it appears like it wants to, we look at the top of this, you can see that we have 3 points, a trend line down with no real news. And again, this market closes at 125 as well. Not a whole lot of opportunity. It closes in 23 minutes for Nadex, so not going to really have much to it. But again, when the contracts reprint, if we can come down, I think this could be an area to watch out for if you want to be a little bit more aggressive in preparation for PPI tomorrow. So 25.50 is, I think, a high quality target, but there's another one here we could potentially take with maybe a call spread if we can get a ceiling down at 25.85. All right. So with that said, we are a few minutes over, but that is the conclusion of us today. Make sure you mark off for next week, July 20th. Cannot believe it. We're already at that stage. So that's when we'll be on next week. Don't forget, catch those morning sessions if you can. They're over on YouTube. We love comments. We love questions over there. Todd monitors those. Todd is still off, so it'll be Dan and I tomorrow morning. 8:45 a.m. on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Nadex, click the subscribe button so you can follow us, and then click the bell for notifications. You'll know exactly when we go live, and we try to give you guys at least 1 or 2 setups a morning. So with that said, I'm out of here. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you in the morning. Take care.